The Creative Process Podcast. With Peter Bogdanovich and Catherine Stanley.
Hey, guess what time it is? It's time to watch the Creative Process Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Piper Giorgio, and this is my beautiful wife, Catherine Natali.
And our third co-host, Chanel Bella. Well, today we have a great guest, Aaron Phillips. Aaron is a successful radio personality, author, public speaker, based in Las Vegas. Aaron has produced, hosted, and co-hosted many, many different podcast shows with various topics, as well as pro wrestling commentator, a voiceover actor, event host, semi-presenter, and more. Aaron has received the Personality Network Award back in October 21 and was inducted into the Las Vegas Entertainers Hall of Fame. And he is the top 100 Men of the Year award by My Vegas magazine. And Chanel Bella is so impressed that she wants to say hello and wants to grab your...
She's like, hi, Uncle Aaron.
She's upstaging me. Anyway, you just wrote a book.
I did. Believe it or not, and it's not a comic book.
And it's right there.
Right there.
Folks, get it. He has a great story to tell, and we're going to get to that right now. But first, we want to know where you were born, how you came to be.
How I came to be?
And
we know.
Is this a birds and bees subject?
and so forth. So go. It's yours.
Well, we know Aaron's
Phillips.
from New Jersey.
That's right.
Aaron Phillips in the house.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for inviting me. This is great because you've turned the tables on me.
Yes, well, we've been on
Exactly.
your show.
You've been on the show.
I've been on, yeah.
Yeah, now I get to answer questions, which I'm so not used to doing. Originally from Jersey, which, by the way, did you know is the only state you can drop the word new and still know where you're from?
Yeah.
That's true, Jersey.
Right?
Jersey.
Think about that.
Yeah, I'm
It's
from
weird,
Jersey,
stupid
too.
facts, you know. Born and raised in New Jersey, went to school at Penn State to be, being up in a Jewish family, they always want you to be doctors and lawyers. I just have a degree in mathematics, and I tutor kids in elementary school when I'm not on the air. So you figure out what happened. So I'm out here now in Vegas. August, I believe, will be 24 years.
Wow.
I married 33 years, twin daughters who are 28. So proud of them. And yeah, the background of where you come from, you always don't think sometimes it helps with your fabric of who you are. But then there are times when you realize...
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people, well, obviously from New Jersey, there is a lot of talented people from New Jersey.
Yeah, there are. And you don't realize, Joe Piscopo, for one, comes to for Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
It's John Bon Jovi, though I'm understanding he's having trouble singing nowadays.
Oh.
But
I did not know that.
Yeah, so and I'll tell you, my mom, may she rest in peace, she used to be a dancer in the Catskills.
Oh, nice.
So that's probably where I got some of that entertainment from.
Was this like in the 1950s or something?
Yeah, late 50s, early 60s.
Wow.
I remember growing up seeing pictures of her with people like Nipsey Russell.
I was going to say,
they did a lot of that.
Yeah.
It was almost like the second vaudeville.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Catskills now is not what it used to be back in the day.
No.
There's a great documentary on, I think I would say Amazon, about the Catskills and the Concord Hotel and what it's like up there now. Oh, it's depressing. But yeah, so what I do today, I got to be honest, I didn't go to a university like a Syracuse University that's known for broadcasting. I'm self-taught because I've just, my years in community service, being a Kiwanian, where I'm standing in front of groups of 5 to 5,000 as a club officer and a state officer, I just love the stage. And being a big sports fan, you guys know this, following the Yankees, I had Phil Rizzuto, I had Bill White, Frank Messer. The Mets side, you had, what's his name, Bob Murphy, and you had those classic, Mel Allen. And I said, boy, that's really cool. I said, so I'll be in the back of the room. I'll be doing my own Yankee broadcasts in my own bedroom. And now stepping up to play, Greg, and I'm calling the game just for the fun of it. Wrestling was another great thing that I grew up watching. And, you see
especially
that.
on Channel 9 in the 70s.
WOR, baby, 12 to 1. That was my routine on a Saturday night.
Yeah. Andre the Giant.
I had a cousin that was a wrestler.
Really?
Professional wrestler.
Who?
Arnie Natali.
What was his wrestling name?
I don't know, but he's on the internet, actually.
I'll
You
have to
can
look him up. I didn't know that.
And he used
Great
to tell
guy.
me, great guy.
Yeah.
He was actually the reason why we wrote Pumping Up, the feature
Really?
film, because
was
of
an
his
inspiration,
story.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'll have to
and-
check it out. I didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah. And I actually have a photo of him. I should send you a photo of
Do
him.
I'd love to see it.
And he was actually summoned to Hollywood because he was very good looking, and he had that big. He was a big guy like you,
Yeah.
and
Good-looking guy.
good-looking guy,
Charismatic.
And they wanted him to audition for
Hercules.
Hercules. That's
Really?
it. Yeah. And
Wow.
his wife did not want that. She was very. She was not open to it.
She was an introvert.
Yeah, she
She's like,
wasn't
"You're not
into.
going to Hollywood."
You're not going. And so that's my
right
story,
on.
my family story.
Right on.
So.
No, that's cool. So Saturday nights, I babysat for my younger brother and sister when my parents went out. So for me, and you guys can relate to this, 9 to 10 was Fantasy Island. Oh, Love Boat. Then Fantasy Island from 12 to 11. 11 to 12, 11 to 11:30, I got stuck watching nothing but local news, CBS, and those guys, Warner Wolf and company. 11:30 to 12, 11:30 to 12, the first half hour Saturday Night Live when it was worth watching.
When it was
Yeah,
worth
exactly.
watching.
And then
Yeah.
12
That's good.
o'clock, WWOR Channel 9, you got the end of Racing from Yonkers.
Yes.
Before WWF would come on with Vince McMahon, with Gorilla Monsoon, or whoever it was. And that's when I started my love affair with wrestling. My first live event was in the mid-'70s. I was 12, and I saw Bob Backlund beat superstar Billy Graham for the title in Madison Square Garden when Backlund held the title for like 5 years. And I've interviewed Bob Backlund a number of years back. But yeah, so from all of that and just the excitement, and people always telling me I had a great voice and I should be doing something. But by that point, when I went off to college, it was kind of too late because I have a degree in mathematics. I didn't go into communication. Now, if I had the time all over, of course I would
You
have.
went into communications.
Absolutely. But everything I do, I'm self-taught. And I talk about this in my book, that the way I taught myself was I would just listen back to every show that I would host. Because during the show, you guys know this, we're all on the same plane. You're not really listening to the show right now. We're hearing noise, we're having conversation. But until you go back and watch it like a listener would, then you're really watching it. And I can listen to how I did an interview or how I spoke or did I step on somebody. And so I really honed that skill simply by listening to myself on recordings. And I have every soundbite. I have a external hard drive, every show I've ever done, every commercial, voiceover. I think I still have the script when I did that table read with you on that Zoom that day.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
everything, because I'm critiquing myself to continue to be better. Now, I'm not stating I'm Dan Rather. I'm not the best of the best, but I get compliments on how I do my shows and how I interview people because it's all about them. But that's how I learned to do this.
Now, who's your favorite famous announcer? Like, who was your mentor?
In general,
yeah.
or you just, or in,
And generally speaking, when you were growing up, who was your mentor? Who would you want to know more and more about?
well, it's funny. There was a guy on CBS that I used to watch. You guys remember Warner Wolf?
Of course.
Yes.
With
The
the hat.
car-
He had the cowboy hat.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it
At
cowboy?
times.
Yeah.
At times, not
At times.
always.
But and Jim Jensen, who used to be the desk,
Yes,
the main
Jim
guy.
Jensen.
I remember Jim Jensen.
You listen to their voice. For him, it was all about the voice. For me, Jim Jensen was listening to that stoic, and his face was always so marveled. He
Yeah,
would
like
never
a Ken doll.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
He would never get caught up in the emotion of the
Yeah, he
story.
wasn't
No,
very
no.
emotional. No.
But Warner Wolf was really the first guy that I saw that had some character and personality delivering.
He had
Yeah,
passion.
It's sports, I
Yeah.
get that. But he had always a way of doing it that you go, man, this is so much fun, And really after that, like I mentioned before with baseball, that was my sport. So all the names I mentioned before, Phil Rizzuto was the funny guy. You have Bill White, who was the more serious guy. Frank Messer could be in between. Growing up as a kid, many people don't know this, but I actually grew up as a Mets fan because of my grandfather before I became a fan of the Yankees. So Bob Murphy was one of the best baseball broadcasters ever in a regional area. Lindsey Nelson was noted for his jackets, because you had to find a niche in something that was going to make you. Now, on a national level, you had Kurt Gowdy. There's a guy that you listen to, Joe Buck or Jack Buck. So really, I took a little bit of everybody, and said, I like what this person's doing. I like what that person's doing. When it comes to wrestling, and because I do local commentary, it's about how you tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball, news, you don't have to do that. It's information. It's happening. People can see it. But when you're doing wrestling, you're trying to tell the equivalent story that is being watched and seen in the ring, and that's a different talent.
Wow.
and everything is just a little. I did football here in town. Ricky and I, we did for the Las Vegas Kings, a semi-pro football team, and I had to teach him on how to be a color guy, to keep his mouth shut when I was talking about what play was going on, and it takes this. It just takes a certain skill, and look, people tell me what a great job I do interviewing people. I just tell people one simple rule: I put my guests in the spotlight. It's not about me, and I think that's what made me successful. And I ask the questions that I would hope a viewer would want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that if you had gone to school for communications, you would have been a different kind of announcer, or do you think that for you it's all organic?
I want to say the majority of what I do is organic, but one thing I think I shared this in the book. I don't even know. I finished the book like 8 months ago, and I don't remember what I had for breakfast today, but I actually when I lived in Jersey, I responded to an ad. Do you guys remember the Connecticut School of Broadcasting
Yes,
Company?
I do.
Yes.
So I answered an ad, and
Oh,
and
wow.
I submitted my application. And so the day I went in for my audition, the radio piece, they had a guy from ESPN, national ESPN, okay, sitting in the booth with me as I was doing what I'm doing right now with you guys behind a microphone. They gave me a quick 60-second read. We get off, and he says, you ever done this before? I said, well, I've just started dabbling in it. At the time I was doing a little something on a little station back east. And he says, dude, you're really good. And this is a guy from ESPN. So unfortunately at the time, to get enrolled in the school was $5,000. I just had my girls, got my first. I'm like, damn, it's like timing couldn't be any worse, you know?
Yeah.
So I want to believe wholeheartedly that I would take the training. But the key with what I do or what you guys do is you're still going to you have to find your way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't sit here and do it the way Kurt Gowdy used to be or Jim Jensen or any of these great, Dan Rather. I always compare myself jokingly to Dan Rather. I don't consider myself Dan Rather, but I want to keep getting better every day at what I do. Right. So I want to believe that I have my niche and my style, my voice, my delivery.
You do. Yeah.
But I'd like to believe I wouldn't change anything. I would take what I would have learned, employ it into what I do still today.
You and Ricky Cash had that chemistry.
May he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. Ricky.
Yeah.
And when we were on your show with Ricky, I mean,
Vegas Unwrapped.
Vegas Unwrapped.
7 years.
I mean,
I have look at this. Look at my arm. I have goosebumps. He's with us right now.
He is with us. And he just would have to just look over at you, and you just fed each other.
We had such great chemistry, and the secret behind that one was because we were good friends off the air. We were dear friends. We were buds. We were talking football, baseball. We lived up the street from each other. We cried. We laughed. And we took that chemistry to the airwaves. And he was the foil. He was the perfect foil for anybody who wanted you could play the straight man. He was the foil for everything.
I know the jokes that would come out.
And you could laugh at him and joke at him and make him the butt of jokes, but that was his shtick and his routine.
You were Bud Abbott. He was Lucas Stella.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we got into doing Vegas Unwrapped, I just gotten off doing a show, my first sports show for 3 years with somebody. And you guys remember Ricky was a big sports fan.
Yes.
I'm Yankees Giants. He was Mets Jets. So there was that natural rivalry. And he wanted to do a sports show with me, and I told him, I said, I would normally, but I don't want to, because I just got off of a sports show. I need to show diversity, right? And so we developed the show Vegas Unwrapped off the heels of being in timeshare for as many years as we were. I promised him we could talk sports within the show at times. And then he just became, what was really cool, his character of Ricky Cash, okay? And can I tell the story about how we got his name?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll tell you in a couple of minutes.
I'd like to know. Oh.
First of all, it's going to be a year in about 10 days since we lost Ricky already.
Oh, wow.
So his real name is Richard Marsh.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up as a kid, it was so funny. You guys probably know what the nickname for somebody whose first name is Richard would normally be. Just like Richard Nixon, right?
Right.
Can we say what it is so people know? Are we not going to get thrown off the air?
No.
So those of you who may not know, the nickname for Richard is Dick.
Yeah.
Right? Tricky Dick, Nixon, and all that.
Yeah.
Well, he told me one day, he said he didn't want to grow up to be a dick. But he did say, because of that, he always wanted his nickname to be Ricky. And so it never stuck. And so, okay, because all I did, listen, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. My name is Aaron Phillips. I just simply flip-flop for my first name and middle name. That's all I did. Added an S to Philip, put it, and it just sounded great. So he says, I want to be called Ricky. Okay. And I said, what about a last name? And he says, Cash. And I said, Ricky, I said, I've known you for a lot of years. I said, I didn't know you were a Johnny Cash fan. He says, no, you bumbling idiot. He said to me, he says, whenever you and I sit down, we always commiserate about how tough it is financially for us. You know, we need to make money. How are we going to make money for the show? He says, but this way with the last name of Cash, we always have cash around us.
Always
And Ricky Cash was then born.
Okay.
So that's how we got the name. And Phillips and Cash was a great combination when we did Vegas Unwrapped.
Yeah.
And then when we took it to do the broadcasting for football, we just went on as Phillips and Cash. And we did a road trip game one day, and we were in the stands, and somebody sitting there as we were talking about the game, they had listened to us previously on a previous game. And they said, aren't you the two that do the broadcasting for the Kings? And we said, yes, we are. He said, you guys are hilarious. And that's when you know you make it. If you touch one person in anything we do,
Yes.
you know, we all want to be rich at what we do. I know that. But if you make a difference in somebody's world for just a minute, you know, one person, I think you've done your job.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, I
It's a nice
digress
That's your
about
passion.
Ricky's story.
That's your passion.
So absolutely.
Tell
Now,
us about your book.
Well, Rick, I'm sorry, not Rick.
That's right.
Aaron, you've always been creative, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to believe I am. Some people may argue with that. You know, I'm going to let you in a little insight as to how I do my shows, and I'll get to the book. People ask me how I prepare for my shows. You know, and when you do 4 shows, you know.
4 a week, yeah.
4 per week. Now, I have to say 2 of them.
Tell the audience what those 4 shows are.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so Tuesdays, and this is on a network called Go Live Vegas, so you can look it up online. Tuesdays, I co-host a show called The Debt Lifeline. Now, the main guy, his name is Rob Goldstein. It's not a financial planning show. He's the kind of guy that if, let's say, you want representation with a credit card balance and you don't want to fight with those guys, he'll take it over and rep you. With all the idle money and the SBA monies that were out there during the pandemic, you know, you have to jump through a lot of hoops. He would do that on your behalf. If you have issues with the VA, he'll take any of those financial crises moments that you're dealing with and take them over and represent you. Okay. So we talk about that. Now, it's his material. I just kind of ride the ship with him. Okay. But I co-host it with him. Thursdays, I do a show with Lou Gazzara, who's a great entertainer and singer here in Vegas. He does cruise ships and whatnot, called Black Tie Vegas. Mm-hmm. We dress up in tuxedos, courtesy of, I got to give him a Pop Fryer tux. And we bring back a style of old Vegas. Lou sings, we bring on guests. It's an interview show. And I'm just kind of like his Ed McMahon on that one. You know, I give him some support about production off air. Maybe let's try this, let's try that. But it's primarily his show, which is totally cool. Saturdays, though, is my big day. Saturdays, 9 to 11 a.m., I co-host a show called Thoughts Count Anywhere, which is about professional wrestling with Matt Mullen. And Chief is the doggone it. Stop hitting everything. Thomas Glenn is his real name, but everybody knows him as Chief here in town. That's 2 hours. And Matt really handles putting together the topics, but production-wise, sponsors and all that, behind-the-scenes stuff, I handle that. And then my show, 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific. Aaron Zauer with Aaron Phillips, kind of trying to get that like late night talk show vibe going. Mm-hmm. And I love it. And I've got a couple more shows. As I mentioned, I produce shows. I've got a couple more shows in the hopper. One I will be on camera with, and then the other couple of them just kind of be behind the scenes producing. And that's my passion. That's the creativity.
You do events too. You come on and you are a
You
guest
have
speaker.
that cooking show
and
too with your wife,
yeah.
don't you?
Interesting about that. I do. That's on sabbatical right now because the network with Tema Hammond, you guys know, goldennetwork.tv. Right now, that show's on the back burner right now because they're restructuring some things in the network.
Oh, they are. Okay,
But I do another show there called Keep Talking, where myself and Wayne Worley and Kitty Schuler, both actors and folks here in town, it's sort of like an improv show. We take topics and just kind of off the cuff talk about them. We're in the process of kind of like reprogramming that show right now. And we actually have a conference call this upcoming Monday for the 3 of us to talk about some ideas. Those 2 are really my first soirees in front of the camera. Now, what we do here, this is camera work, and I get that. But I mean, where I really have to sort of act.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's cool because I really want to get into acting. And you and I have had this conversation.
Yes.
I want to act. I want to just kind of feel that. I've never done that before, but I think it's in me.
In acting, what's your, like,
What kind of actor would
like,
you want to be?
what kind of actor would you be? Like, why? If you have.
I'll give you the why first, okay? Like many of us at times, we go through bad stretches in our life, okay? And I'm not going to make it, a secret. I'm transparent. since my mom passed away, will be 22 years ago coming November, I've been dealing with depression and high anxiety disorder. Well, I was meeting with somebody one day who suggested, as I talked to him about acting, because I just feel I have this emotion inside of me that I need to keep getting out and dealing with. And he said, well, you really should go into acting. Just get on the stage, whether it's big time or whatever, just feel those emotions to come out. Yeah. Almost like therapy.
It's therapy.
Yeah.
And I said, boy, I would love to try that. Now, I kind of improv on the shows like we're all doing right now. And I'm not a script writer in terms of, I can't go in front of a mic and do an open mic night of comedy because you have to write stuff for that.
And
that's not me.
Stand-up is awfully
It's
hard.
tough. Now, if somebody writes a script and says, here's what I want you to deliver, okay, I can do that. Okay. But I can't sit down and write routines. Okay. I'm more of an impromptu, off the cuff, stupid comment kind of reactionary comic is what I like to say. But it doesn't have to be that. I mean, I could just play a bit role in the background like an officer with like, Freeze, you're under arrest. I could do that. Just something that I don't even care if it's a local troupe that you can just do stuff with. And so I think for me, dealing with the emotions that I have to deal with, I think acting of some sort.
It would be a good outlet for you.
Exactly. And help me with that. And that's why. Now, the roles, listen, I've always told people, look, I can do voiceovers. I can do all of that. But I would love to try something that's out of my comfort zone. Whether it's a comedic role or a priest, as you had me play in that table read. First Jewish priest ever, by the way, in your successful show. We did a run through. So I don't think it really matters. I just look at it this way. I've been doing this for over 16 years. I have the passion for it. I want this to ring one day from a big company that says, you know what, we love what you do. We want you to do a show 5 days a week, 3-4 hours a day. And now I've made it. My book, I want to get calls to go on stage and talk to people and be hired as a speaker to share my story.
Absolutely. And tell you
now's a good time to tell you.
I'll segue into that. Absolutely.
Segue.
That's a term in the biz, folks. It's the title of the book is called Let My Voice Speak to You. I change that if I'm meeting with somebody about sponsorship. And I say, let my voice speak for you. So I do change it. But this is Let My Voice Speak to You, stories from our Hall of Fame broadcaster. And this came out of a health transition story where you guys, as we talked about before we went on the air, you guys knew me when I was much heavier. My highest weight was 354 pounds. Yeah. Okay. I had medical conditions, stage 2, diabetes, type 2. I had stage 2 non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. 45% of my liver was shot. I had cellulitis. I had sleep apnea. I had it all. And, you go through life. You're always on diets. We got to watch here. We got to increase our exercise. So push comes to shove. My wife and I ended up 12 days apart doing a gastric sleeve procedure because the doctor told me, he says, hey, you need to lose weight fast. None of this like taking off slowly. And so August 9th of 2017, I had my surgery and I weighed into that surgery at 313 pounds because part of the 6-month protocol, I had to go to meetings once a month. I had to meet with a nutritionist, learn how to live differently. Now, gastric sleeve, I don't want to, I always get asked this, do they have put a little netting over your stomach? No. My stomach was cut down to the size of a banana. Wow. So you can't help but eat less.
Yeah.
But you also have to learn to eat very differently.
Differently, sure. And
nutrition and timing and everything is important. So I shared my story very publicly because I want to inspire people. Okay? My tagline for my book is it's a book filled of inspiration, education, and laughter. So the things I share in the book, and by the way, it's available on Amazon now for $6.99, or you can email me at aaronphillipslv2018@gmail.com, and I can send you an autographed copy, which you'll see me do later. Cheap plug. But anyway, I felt it was important because the way I delivered the message of what both my wife and I learned was in a way that you can apply what we learned to really any aspect of your life. Doesn't have to be health. Because everything in health is all about choices. I hate to tell you that, folks. It's about choices.
Yeah.
I didn't make the best choices in my nutrition and growing up and everything else. Okay. Diabetes, I always knew eventually it was going to come to me. My great-grandmother had it. My mom had it. My grandparents had it. It was, for me, I kind of looked at it and saying it was just a matter of time. Unfortunately, I had to go through a very serious cellulitis attack where I was in the hospital for 17 days to finally be diagnosed officially with diabetes. I still have the scars on my leg from how bad my skin got from that attack. So the choices you make, listen, You wake up every day. Your first choice. Do I shower today? What's the ramifications if I don't? Should I brush my teeth today? What clothes should I wear today? You know, it's funny. And Pete messaged me earlier this morning. Don't wear green. Now, fortunately, none of my shirts I wear are green, so we were safe. I knew that. But I'm glad you reminded me because I hadn't thought about it. So the choice I made was great. If I had something with green on, I was in trouble. I mean, I have a tank top on, but I don't
have a green screen.
Right, exactly.
We have a green screen.
We have the key in backgrounds.
So think your weather person. That's, they do all that. Anyway, so everything we do is about choices. Yes. Some are going to have a positive impact. Some are going to have a negative impact. So like I said, the stuff that I share in there are the things that both my wife and I learned going through this together, fortunately. And the way like I said, that I told our story was so that you can really take the lessons that we learned and apply them to any aspect in life. That's the inspiration part. And that's probably about 80-90% of the book. The education as a podcaster is what you guys do. And I hate using podcast because it's such a misnomer for a lot of people, but it's a word that a lot of people use for what we do. I do trainings on it. I hold classes and seminars. But in the book, I put a couple of nuggets of things for people who think they want to do what we do. Yeah. And maybe I just give them a few tidbits just to kind of get them rolling. And then the laughter, listen, we can say this. We talked about it before we started doing this. The best conversations, ladies and gentlemen, are when shows are on commercial. When you have certain guests that you just get into these conversations and you're laughing and you're hearing stories. And so in the book, I share some of those off microphone stories as well. Kind of behind the scenes. But listen, you know who Henry Hill is, right?
Yes.
Of course I do.
Okay.
I saw Goodfellas many times. I
right.
worked on Goodfellas.
Well, I've interviewed Henry Hill twice.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And both times I had to clean up both versions of the story. But there's one story I'll share. But
where was this interview?
Ricky and I actually interviewed him twice. Once it was at a studio years and years and years ago. We had him in studio now.
Oh, this is before Vegas Unwrapped?
Oh, no, this was during Vegas Unwrapped. Okay. This is like in the early run. So we had him come in with a gentleman who was kind of working with him on his book. Now, if you don't know this should come as no surprise. Henry liked to, dabble in some adult beverages. Well, he came to the studio that night, sauced. Oh. And that night, something terrible happened in Asia, somewhere in China. I don't know if it was like one of the tsunamis or something. And I have connections here in town where they asked about sending out information. They were trying to do a fundraiser. So as we were going to break, I started sharing the information. Henry says, I really want to keep it as clean as possible as I share the story, he says, the Japs? Are you effing kidding me? The Japs? And now I'm like, we're all laughing, and I ain't giving them nothing, he says. So we go to break, we come back, and I say, now, ladies and gentlemen, I should have done this before, but the following opinions are not necessarily expressed those of Vegas Unwrapped, blah, 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 blah. So that's a clean version. You folks will have to buy the book. The other thing, I'll never forget this, we had a great sit-down. We called this the mob sit-down. We had Henry Hill, Frank Cullotta.
He passed away, too.
Yes, he recently passed away. We had Dennis Arnaldi, who was the FBI agent that actually arrested the Hole-in-the-Wall gang. Craig Vincent from the movie Casino. Right. The guy who put the Cowboys put his feet up on the table, right? With Robert. Okay, he was on. We had Andrew DiDonato from back east was also part. Anyway, so we had a great roundtable discussion. So here we are. I'm sitting with Ricky next to me. And we all know that Vegas early on in its foundation was based around the mafia and whatnot. And then it changed and whatnot. So Ricky, in all seriousness, turns to Henry. And Henry was sitting off to our left. And he looks at Henry and he says, Henry, I want to ask you a serious question. Ricky gets himself adjusted in a chair. And he says, Henry, he says, in your opinion, he says, do you think the mob is still in this town today? Which case, Henry looked at Ricky and he says, what are you, a country bumpkin? And I looked at the camera, which was over there, and I said, good night, everybody. Thank you for watching. And from that point forward, another nickname I called Ricky was the country bumpkin. Okay. Right. So these are some great stories, and there are others in the book.
Have you had an interview that the person was just so non-talkative?
Oh my God!
Like Robert De Niro?
Like what did you do?
Robert De Niro?
Like did you have like
talk shows?
I did. No. I had, again, this is going back in the early days of Vegas Unwrapped, where I learned a very important lesson. Ricky and I had great chemistry. We talked about it before we went on, but you guys know that. So early on, we used to do a segment called Business Spotlight, where we would offer business people to come on to Vegas Unwrapped to do a segment with us, talk about their business.
Sure.
And I would basically sell it for one segment. But if it's good radio, I'm going to keep them on longer, give them more bang for the buck. So we had a gentleman who I believe the gentleman's no longer alive, but I don't want to use names. So he comes on and he had some like energy company, like MLM energy, like for lights, not drink energy. And he's telling us that he's not going to give us he's not going to give out a lot of information during the interview because he wants people to call him to get the rest of the information.
Oh.
So the way we were situated in studio, we were like a triangle. Okay. I was like where I am. The guest was here. Ricky was directly across from me. And I told the gentleman, I said, John Smith, protect the innocent. That's going to be really not good radio. Because if you're not going to give any information, no one's going to tune in. But you've paid for the time. If that's the way you want to go, we'll go. Okay. We start the interview. I ask a couple of questions. He starts giving answers. But if you want to find out more, you got to give me a call at 555-1212. So we're about, take away a commercial. So the segment's about 12 minutes, 13 minutes. About 6 minutes in with Ricky sitting across from me, I simply did this. Very quietly, very innocently, so that our guest really didn't see it. And he looked at me and he goes, which was my signal to him, I'm ending this at break. I'm not going any further with this.
Wow.
And as we got to the end of the break, I said, John Smith, thank you for coming in. Give your phone number one more time. Not like he hadn't given it a million times. And that was it. I ended the segment. He leaves and clears the studio. And I turned to Ricky, and I've lived by this. No one's ever done this since. And I said to Ricky, if anybody else comes into my studio, our show, and tells us how they want an interview done, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Okay? We are the professionals. I don't call a plumber to paint my house.
Right.
Okay? So no one's ever come in telling me how to do their interview. And I know you guys are the same way. It's your show, Right. And so all I try to do is I speak to the guest ahead of time. I want some bullet points of things that you want to talk. I mean, you guys went through this with us.
Yeah.
Give me some things you want to talk about so I know I cover what's important to you.
Right.
That was the word. Now, sometimes you have guests on that you think are great, and you try to get into a conversation, and then they ask a question, which is open-ended. You always ask open, and they give you a short answer that you're trying to.
Oh, yes,
right?
yes.
You're trying to pull more, and they
yeah.
just are not biting.
Yeah.
And so you have to go further, but at least they're in a conversation. This one incident, no, I couldn't
it's like,
get anything.
why would he pay?
Because he thought he knew better than us.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
He thought he knew better by saying, I'm not going to give him a whole lot of information. Let him go to my website or call me to actually get it. I'm like, they're not tuning in to learn nothing, John Smith.
Exactly.
They want information. You've got to give them enough.
Exactly.
Or they have to trust you to give you.
I mean, I wouldn't trust a person.
I wouldn't trust him.
I'm so glad you said that.
Anything?
I'm so glad you said that because I know this is about creative stuff.
Yes.
What my guests don't realize, and I don't think any of my previous co-hosts ever realized this, but one lesson I learned early on in sales, and we've all gone through this, there are 3 reasons we buy from each other. Do you know what it is?
Well, one is trust.
One.
Relationship.
Okay, no. Like and trust. No, like and trust. So what people don't realize when they come on my show, I do that to them in my interview. They just don't know it because for me, that's putting them in the best possible spotlight. So I bring somebody on, the first segment or 2, we talk about the business. I got to have them build their credibility.
Right.
Give me your background. Why are you in this industry? What makes you the person? Because when I bring people on, I try to position them to be the best in the niche of the industry that they're representing.
Why should I go to you for whatever product
Exactly.
I need or something?
Exactly. So
service.
like on my show, my advertisers, I only have 1 advertiser per industry. I will not have like 40 real estate agents as sponsors. I'll have 1. When that contract is up, if they don't renew, then I'll go to another one. So I do the know, like, and trust. So I do the trust part by talking about their business, like you said, building credibility. And then what I try to do is I towards the end, the last segment I used to do was called Getting to Know You. And that's where I just have like 15 off-the-wall questions having nothing to do with their business. You guys did that, right?
Yeah.
What's your favorite this? What's your favorite that, et cetera? Because I want my audience to realize that Peter and Catherine are real people. They may be behind the business, folks, but I'm asking these questions. You know why? If I said to you, what's your favorite music genre? And you said country, I guarantee you that there's somebody watching that loves country and they go, Peter loves country. I love country.
Yes.
Now you've got a connection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so I do the know, like, and trust within my interviews. That's where the creative process comes in as to how I do my interviews and why I think I'm successful and why people want to come back on my show, because I put them in the best light. There are a lot of people out there in this industry who, when they interview people, it's like they're interviewing themselves.
Yeah, that's boring.
Right?
Yeah.
If the spotlight's on them. No. My job is to put you on a pedestal. People are, it's my show, and I'll have my 15 minutes of shtick at the beginning, but they're tuning in to listen to my guest. Yeah. And it's my job to keep you on that pedestal, not the other way around.
Well, the whole thing about entertainment is the human connection.
Absolutely.
Whether you're telling a story, or you're an announcer, or you're a speaker, or you're a writer, writing your own journey, it's about that human connection.
Absolutely.
And there's always someone right now who's listening, who's battling
something.
That's why you have to buy Aaron's book.
You have to buy his book.
Anyway, we need to wrap up, Catherine.
Oh, we have to wrap up already? How much time do we have left? How much time do we have left?
We have another minute.
All right, so I have a book here, and for those of you who don't know, in the Oval Office, when the president signs things into law, he has pens on, brand new pens, right? So I just took one of my pens out of the plastic wrapper, and what I do is I'm going to sign the book for these folks, these friends. All right, and then as is tradition, I'm going to give them the pen to go with it, just like the president. I'm impotent, even if it is in my own mind. So I'm going to sign it. But yeah,
El Presidente.
El Presidente, at least in my own mind.
Thank you, Aaron.
So
thank you, Aaron.
No, listen.
I would definitely read it. Too.
We have been friends, 15 years roughly, if we ballpark a little bit.
No, we met you.
Well, we were on Vegas and Wrapped, and I've been off of that show for a number of years.
Yeah, we probably have known each other for about almost 10 years.
Maybe
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
And we've always gone back and forth and supported each other. We've gone out to dinner, which we have to do with summertime. We're still waiting for that barbecue. We haven't forgotten.
I know.
At your place.
I know. We should. We should. And you babysat our dog while we went to Austin, Texas.
Yes, Chanel.
Chanel Bella. That's why Chanel is...
That's why she was licking Aaron.
I know. She was like, I think I remember this guy.
She wants to say hello.
Absolutely. So
hello, Chanel Bella.
You can go on to... Amazon. It is on Kindle. $6.99 for my book, Let My Voice Speak to You. Email me. I'm on Facebook, but you can email me at aaronphillipslv2018@gmail.com. Hard copy is $14.95, $5 shipping, because I'll ship it anywhere, and I'll even autograph it to you specific.
And you are available for speaking engagements.
I am. They can contact me the same way or through any of my websites or Facebook. It's all good. I'm available. My voice is here to represent you. That's the key thing. So, yeah. It's been great.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Aaron.
My pleasure, as I struggle to Hall of Fame. What year was I inducted? 2018. So there you go. I'm going to show. There's the autograph. I'll give you that. I'll give you the book.
Here's the book.
I'll give her the pen because I know she has to write out the checks. So it's been.
There's the book.
There it is.
Buy the book.
Please.
How long did it take you to write that?
I went through two. Listen, I use a ghostwriter because if I sat down to write a book, it would have been a 3-page comic book. Okay. I mean, I just don't have that capacity.
Yeah.
Because the one thing about ghostwriters, they know what to ask you to get the information out. But when I buckled down and got the second ghostwriter, really started from beginning to end, the written part and everything probably went about 6 months, back and forth, editing and everything.
Right.
Then it was a matter because I'm self-published. Right. So then it was getting the book design and getting everything out there. But writing it
Did you have to write stories of what happened to you? And so
I was. She's located in Florida, and so she recorded our phone calls. So I just talked, and she just wrote off of that. Which, by the way, I did a podcast with a guy by the name of Tony Martini, who is a big entertainer for a long time, and he wanted to write a book.
I heard of him, yeah.
Yeah. So I said to him, Tony, instead of getting a writer, dude, let's do a show about your 50 years in entertainment. Let the ghostwriter take the episodes and write your book. That's what happened.
Wow.
Because you're really talking into a recorder now.
Now, when the book was done, you actually read it. Did you cry?
I was more inspired by it. I didn't cry. Mm-hmm. There is one story in there I will change in the next edit, and that was the night we made the decision to move out here. Because the final decision was based on the fact, and I know she's not going to listen, so I'm not worried about it. my mother-in-law and I, we didn't have the best relationship. So we're all thinking my wife's career was good. And I said, you mean to tell me we can put 2,500 miles between me and my mother-in-law? And Eileen goes, yeah. I said, when are we packing, babe? Now, because she may buy the book, Eileen made me change the ending of that story in the book because she's still around. She lives down in Arizona.
Yeah.
So I changed it to, you mean we could put 2,500 miles between me and snowstorms? Doesn't have the same impact and fun as my real intent. But so I did, it's hard to believe that my life is in print. I never thought I would do anything like that.
Right.
But now I want that book out there. I want to inspire people. I want to be on the stage. I don't care if I'm going to share my story in front of 3 people or 3,000 people. Cool. And that's what the book is about.
All right, Aaron.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank you,
for being
Aaron.
on the Creative
My pleasure.
Process podcast.
Let the creative process
continue.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron Phillips.
Hey, be kind to everybody. Why is that? We're all we have.